Hello, everyone, and welcome to Story Time. Thank you for joining us. And of course, today is a special event. As you know, we have an amazing book and, of course, great people here with us sharing their amazing creation. And I cannot wait for you to meet them more. And of course, we're talking about this wonderful, wonderful book, Show the World. And this one is written by Angela Dalton and illustrations by Daria Peoples. I hope you're excited for this one just as I am. And of course, we're going to have a reading of it and then more discussion, conversation with the two creators and just to hear about their process and also what this book means to them. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime, and know that you're joining us from all over the world. I hope that you are okay wherever you are. I hope that you're having a wonderful either start to your day or indeed end to your day, or however, whatever time it is. I hope that you are well. And please remember to always check in on those neighbors, check in on your friends. A little hello can go a long way. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please, as always, let us know you were here. Leave a message, and so we can definitely say hi to you. And of course, leave questions for our guests today, and we're sure to get them to them and get you those answers that you need. Thank you so much for joining in. But this time, without much ado, please join me in welcoming to Storytime Daria Peoples and Angela Dalton. Welcome to Storytime.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So glad you could join us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so glad to be here. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Welcome back, Angela. It's been, when was the last time? Was it April 18 last year?
Yeah, it was almost a year.
Impressive.
You did
That's
great.
5 stars right there. Daria Peoples, welcome to Storytime. Hopefully not the last time that we see you on this set.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Tell
not.
us where you're joining us from.
I am joining you from Las Vegas, Nevada. Today is a very warm day. I think it's 91 already today.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. And I remember we were complaining just here in Oakland. There was a day, I think it went to close to 80. And there was definitely complaining about just how hot it was, and nobody wanted to be outside.
That's a nice cool breeze. Nice cool breeze.
Nice. So, it's interesting because I just had recently somebody from Las Vegas that was on, or living in Las Vegas right now, Carter Higgins. So we're talking about, I think we read, what did we read that day? Circle Underberry, one of her books. But we're talking, is Vegas all about the Strip?
No, I don't think so. I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know. But there are a lot of wonderful communities on the outskirts of, Las Vegas that are anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes away, where just regular families live, and not all of us live in the casinos. So we have houses and backyards and garages. Yes.
Oh, well, good to know. Good to know. Thank you for joining us. How about you, Angela? Where are you joining us from today?
I am joining you from Oakland, California.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you. And Angela, what's I know Oakland is fast. What do you love about this city?
Oh, the people. It's always about the people, the culture, the arts, the history. I mean, it's just magical. I don't like to brag about it too much because I don't want more people to move here.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to keep it all from myself. But it's about the people, and especially people of color here. Just the pride and the love that they have for the city and for each other. And, I come here by way of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I moved to Oakland in 2016, and it's really interesting to see that they're almost mirror cities to each other, Minneapolis and Oakland. So it feels a lot like home. So that's what I really like about it.
Awesome.
It feels like
I've not been to Minneapolis yet, but that's amazing to
go in the summertime.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. All right, but you two have given us this amazing book. And I know that you're reading for us today, and so I know you have some stuff prepared for us too, but what does this book mean to you? And then we could get into our reading. Maybe let's start with you, Daria, and then Angela, you can talk a little bit about it as well, and then we'll go into our reading and everything else that you have.
Yeah, you know, when my agent first sent me the manuscript for Show the World, it immediately just evoked so much joy in my heart and in my spirit. I was coming off of writing America, My Love, America, My Heart, and needing something. And I haven't told Angela this, but I actually prayed for a book that I could help children see themselves and the beauty and gifts inside. And so when I read the manuscript, I go, oh, wow, this is exactly what I asked for. This is amazing. And so it really is just a book that just really touched my heart about how much we can celebrate our children. And that was important to me, especially during, we were still in the pandemic when I received the manuscript. And I was really concerned about our children. And, you know, so, and I didn't have the opportunity to do school visits anymore during that time. And that's kind of my check-in period, you know, and I didn't have that opportunity. So I really felt like I was proactively doing something during that time to celebrate children.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it shows, I mean, this book you just feel the love, you see the love, for sure. Angela, for you, what does it mean?
Oh, so much. Well, first and foremost, it's a love letter to the Black and brown children of Oakland. And what was so magical about the manuscript finding its way to Daria was that, to be honest, you know, I wrote this with Oakland very much on my heart, very much on my mind. But, you know, publishing can be a really tricky thing to navigate. And one of the concerns when it was, you know, just on words on paper was that if we tied it to Oakland, that it wouldn't be accessible, that it would be too regional and people wouldn't be able to understand. And which is like, everybody knows Oakland. Like, I love Daria's. You said, you know, Oakland's like the West Coast Harlem. And I was like, yes, you know?
Yeah, no. I love
so
that.
Yeah.
So even though like I advocated and I was really trying to push that way, there was a lot of resistance about that. So when I saw the first sketches, Daria's first sketches, and I saw the house, and I was like, it's Oakland. Like, thank you, universe. And there's just Oakland all through this book. And so it just made my heart so happy because, again, it started as a love letter to Oakland's Black and brown children and their creativity. And really the story came about from a couple different ways. But I remember reading this article about these TikTok dancers, and I'm not a TikToker. I'm not good at social, so I'm going to sound like a very old woman talking about it. But there's this situation that happened where these Black TikTok dancers had done these dances and they were, you know, blowing up. But then all of a sudden these white TikTok dancers did them. And, you know, all of a sudden the white TikTok dancers were going on, you know, Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and, you know, all these talk shows. And I was just like, I'm so tired of our culture being taken from us and the erasure of it. And so really this book is a love letter to Black and brown children to continue to show the world what they can do, to continue to show their arts and their artistic, you know, ingenuity, and to tell the world, like, this is ours. You know, we need to be seen and recognized for that. So that is what I'm really hoping translates when children read this book.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. No, absolutely. And I think, you know, like I got to see a bit of that in action too when you're talking to my student just the other day. So that just warms my heart. Well, I know that you both have, you know, like some amazing stuff prepared for us and also doing the reading for us today. I'm excited for that. So I'll let you two do that and then join you on the other side after that. But for now, all yours.
Sounds good.
And just let me know too, like if you want to share, then I'll put stuff up.
Okay, that sounds good. So Daria.
Hey, Angela.
Hey. We made it, girl. We made it.
We made it.
Oh, I could not be happier that, again, this manuscript found its way to you. You just handled it with so much love and so much care. And again, just the celebration of Oakland throughout just makes my day. And I can't wait to share it with the kids of Oakland. I can't wait to share with all kids, obviously, but definitely kids of
Yeah.
Oakland, to have that connection. But, I know one of the things that we talked about was, you know, you already said what the meaning of the book meant to you, but can you tell me a little bit more about, your process of when you got the manuscript and like what you started thinking about? Like we can start there. Don't you? I know you're going to talk more about that, but I just want to know like what was going through your head?
Well, one of the things that I kind of learned to do from my mentor, Floyd Cooper, he suggested I kind of changed my process, and I started to change it with America, and I completely changed it with Show the World because it came right after. And one of the things that I do is I read the manuscript a billion times. I just read it, over and over again. And so much so that it just would absorb within me, where I didn't have to start sketching it from word, page by page. And I knew it by heart pretty much. And then I just sat down to draw. And my first few sketches, always the first round, are just very visceral. I don't really think a whole lot about what I'm drawing. I remember wondering who the narrator was, like, that was in the story. So I actually did reach out to our editor, and I said, did Angela have a narrator in mind? And I think they asked you that. Did they ask you that question? And
They did. I was like, mirror.
Well, no, because the answer you gave them, or at least the answer they gave me, was that you just imagine a young girl walking around her neighborhood looking. Do you remember that? You remember that
I
answer,
did.
Angela?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Let me jog your memory. Yeah. So,
I remember
yes.
the question coming through and just being like, I don't know.
Right.
Well,
Well,
I'm glad you
because
remember.
there were a lot of different, and that's what I loved about the manuscript, is that I could interpret it and create a visual narrative that was really wide open. But this narrative just, intuitively just felt very personal to the author, and I didn't know you at the time, but it just felt very, very personal. And it felt like it was written for a specific neighborhood in mind. And so I immediately was like, where is Angela from? So and so when I saw that it was Oakland, I said, oh wow, yeah, it makes sense. And so that is and when you came back and you said, I imagine a girl just walking around her neighborhood celebrating all of the wonderful creative things that her friends are doing, I automatically knew that she was going to be a photographer because I was a photographer.
I
And
love that.
so, because it celebrated creativity, that was my first creative dream that I had. And I still pretend as though I'm a traveling photographer. So I I just saw that, through her lens, like I could show all of these different creative outlets through the lens of her camera. And so that came about. And then automatically, um, I knew that she lived with her grandmother. I didn't know why at the time until after I was all done with the sketches. But during the making of Show the World, while I was sketching, my own grandmother her health was declining. And every summer, I used to spend every summer with her. And I think it's amazing what happens subconsciously when you're creating art. But it wasn't until maybe the second or third round of sketches that I realized, oh, wow, that's Momo. And so one of the things that I would always watch her do and help her do was to hang the clothes on the line. And it was just so subconscious that that was the beginning of the story. And it just developed from there. And once I got the sketches approved, I went into final art. So that's kind of the background of Show
Oh,
the
I
World.
love I love that. And what I also love too, because you and I really, again, publishing, we didn't really talk to each other
Mm-mm.
until after the book was over. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like not over, but was off to printing.
Right. Right.
And, so to hear you talk about it now is just like, it just feels like there's so much synergy to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, so you asked, like, who was the narrative? What was going through my head as I was writing it. And honestly, I feel like sometimes as a writer, there's always pieces of you, right? And I think you know this as an author, there's always pieces of you that end up in your stories. And that can be a little bit, it feels exposed, like you're exposing pieces of yourself.
Right.
So I think like when you asked me that question, like my defenses went up, like, don't tell her
Right,
it was you.
Right.
But it's true. The books that I have to date, there's always a common theme of it's a Black girl who is centered as the main character. That's really important to me. The first book that I published, If You Look Up to the Sky, was a love letter to my great grandmother and something she said. So
Right.
I love that you have that connection and that you brought your grandmother to this story, because that's the theme that bubbles up for me a lot. So
Yeah.
that makes me really happy to hear that. Oh,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
well, should we start our presentation and we can talk a little bit more
Sure.
about ourselves?
Sounds
Okay,
good.
well, hopefully this will work. All right, there we go. Okay,
I
so
got you, Angela. I got you.
thank you. You're so great. So before we got on, Daria, you and I were talking about like, what as kids led us to become an author or author illustrator. And so for me, this was me, as I think on the left with the big twisty curly ponytails and the little ball baubles.
Yes.
That was me at third grade, I believe.
Oh.
And I chose this picture because I really feel like this was the age where I knew that I loved to write. I would start writing plays and short stories. And this was the moment where I was like, this is something that I want to do. But I also remember feeling conflicted that I didn't think I could do it because I didn't think that Black people could write books or write stories and publish books. And so I hold on to this picture and I look back to it a lot when I'm feeling a little defeated or deflated because there's a lot of rejection in publishing. And I remember, like, so I just try to remind myself of like, at this age, you didn't think you could do it, but you are doing it now. To remind myself of all of the path that I've taken. The middle picture is, I think, also representative of me, of like, I was a reader. I was a book nerd. I like that top picture is me. I went to a Christian school in Wheaton, Illinois. I was maybe one of like 2 or 3 Black kids out of the whole school. So I was like in every single newsletter because I was the only one that was always reading. So they
we read here. Right. She reads here. That's
get her.
Yeah.
So my mom is like all these, newsletters from like, and I'm like, oh, yep, there I am again. But I was like an avid reader. I loved reading. I loved books more than people, and spent a lot of time in the library. And so I think when I think back to how did I get to this place, is definitely is reading. You got to read a lot if you're going to write. And then the last picture, when people ask me about what was I like as a kid, I think this picture definitely symbolizes me or captures me as a kid. I was very dramatic as a child, as you can see. I love to perform. I love to, I said I wrote plays. So one of the things that I would do is write a play and then get all the kids in my neighborhood to perform the play. But I was the director because I really liked, telling people what to do. So this is that picture of me as a kid. I loved being, I love telling stories. I've always just loved, telling a story in some way, shape, or form. So
that we're kind of like the complete opposite, Angela. Like literally the complete opposite. Well, because I did not care to read at all when I was a child. In fact, funny story. My mother was an English teacher. And right.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So she kind of, and I was I was a good reader. I just wasn't interested in reading. And I think I look back and I wonder why, but I think it was, two different reasons. I think I was a very active child and I needed to move, and reading was a very sedentary thing that I was just like, I don't really want to sit down right now. I want to move. And so I was very active and involved in sports. But I think the other reason is I didn't see myself, in the books that they were reading at school. But my mother was persistent, and she did a few different things. She herself collected picture books, so they were around our house, and I fell in love with picture books. The problem was that I was like 10, 11 years old, and I was still reading picture books, but I was introduced to, all of the great artists at a very young age, not really knowing that it would be what I would do one day. And my mother herself, she wrote picture book manuscripts and never got published. And it was something that I remembered as a child, her working on. She was also a playwright and an actor. And so she was very creative in that way. And when she found out that I didn't really like to read, I was about 9 years old, and she got me a job. Guess where the job was, Angela?
At the library.
The library.
Oh, good job. Good job.
And again, I was just reading the picture books, but I was there. And, and so I think that was definitely the seed was being planted in me. And so my father was a Vietnam veteran. And one thing that he did to kind of calm himself during times that he needed to was he began oil painting. And so that was something that we did on the weekends together, he and I. And so, you put a writer and an oil painter together, you get an author illustrator. So that is, and a doctor and an actor. Those are my two brothers, their professions. But there was one author illustrator out of the bunch. And so, but the signs are very early. I just don't think we always pay attention to them. But I think that, our gifts are always apparent. And that's why childhood and children, protecting that for children is so important to me. Mm-hmm. But this is a picture when I was 9. And this was a picture book that I created. I was not the best speller, obviously. I think that's supposed to be Little Miss Misty, not Mizey. But it was written and illustrated by Daria Peoples. Mm-hmm. And some drawings. And I always drew. I had to actually discover that I learned visually, because school wasn't something that I was necessarily great at until I realized that I had to translate words into pictures to learn. And so, yeah, that's kind of my history.
I love that. I tell kids whenever I do author visits, I tell them all the time, definitely it's great that you're in school, like your teachers are here, educators are here to help you, but you have to figure out how you learn, because everybody learns differently. And, I'll even break down like how I would learn, because I'm the kind of person where I have to write pen to paper, like computer is not good for me, because I won't retain it. And so I just think that's so important for kids to know that we all learn differently, that, it's okay. And sometimes I'll even share a story from Jacqueline Woodson talking about how she still to this day will read with her finger on the page to connect with the words. So I love that you figured that out. I love that you shared that. Thank you.
And I did eventually fall in love with reading. I have more books than shoes. We'll just put it like that.
All right. Don't we all?
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we ready to do this?
We are.
This is also the first time that you and I are reading this together. So this is going to be fun.
It is. Okay, here we go.
All right. Here we go. Okay.
You start.
Well, the first spread is the dedication page.
Yeah.
So I always love reading the dedication page too. I think that this is also like our own personal love letters for the book. This for me was for my son. I really wanted to share this with him. He's on the road of like trying to build up his career as a music producer. So for me, it was for JDM. My belief in you, in all you can do, is endless. Show the world. And Daria, I love your dedication because it's so perfect for the children.
Well,
oh,
no, it is. No, it is. I'm just saying I have to say it in my mama voice, though.
Okay, you say it. Go for it.
Okay, I have to say it in my mama voice. For the children of Oakland, y'all better show them.
Amen. All right, here we go. Look around. Can you see the many spaces, places, and ways to show the world all that you can be? What will you do or say or make to express who you are?
Will you find a faded backdrop that you color? Oh gosh, can we start that over?
Sure.
Okay. Edit. Okay. Will you find a faded backdrop that you colorfully transform?
A space you fill with sound like a heart-pounding bass. Rum, thump, rum, bump, rum, bump. Or notes that flutter like hummingbird wings. Ting-a-ting, ting-ting, rat-a-tat-tat.
Perhaps it's a space that you fill with melody, a shimmering soprano, a smooth alto, where your words can be sung la 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 la, or spoken. How I feel is so real, I need y'all to listen. Say it. Yes, sir. Word. Speak it.
Now I want to take a moment here, pause, because I want everybody to know this was the beauty of working with Daria. So most of this on the page that you see on the page was written by me, but I told the publisher, the editor, if she wants to add anything, please just tell her to go for it. And so when I saw this spread that say it, yes sir, word, speak it, that's all Daria, and I was just like, yes, she gets it. So
call and response. It's call and response. No,
love it. This is my favorite spread of the book. I just need to say, I love this spread. It just makes me so happy to see this. So I love that you added that little touch. It was so great. It was perfect. It was like, chef's kiss. Maybe you're the instrument, telling stories with your own unique dance moves, a twirl, a leap, a glide, or the fiercest of poses. Shoom, bam.
Maybe your creative space is blank, patiently waiting for you to fill it with powerful text. Scribble, 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 type, 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 screech, screech, screech. Language that makes you feel something, that makes you think something, that makes you do something.
And I also love too, you've got, here's another instance of Daria adding her little lovely touches, because I didn't have any of those signs with the together. I think together we are stronger I had, but I love that you added the Juntas somos más fuertes and Men appel chez Palou. When I saw the Men appel chez Palou and knew it was Haitian for, is it to many hands, less lighten the load, lighten the work, the Haitian proverb, I was just like, yes, thank you. That is so beautiful. Thank you for adding that.
So I have to share the story behind that, and the talk about the synergy of the book. Monique Sterling, who was the lead designer on the book, her partner is Haitian. And so when I said that I suggested the Haitian language, and she said, I have the perfect phrase. And so that all kind of came together that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Monique.
Shout out to Monique Sterling.
Or perhaps it's a place where your sense of taste can turn everyday ingredients into something extraordinary. Chop, 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 slice, 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 sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Mmm, deliciosa.
Are you the canvas? A work of art with a razor sharp, fresh cut, beaded braids, or bold streaks in your hair? Snip, snip, spray, flip. Like my flip? Anyways.
I love that flip.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have my straight hair today, but.
Maybe your voice comes alive through fabric, your story gathered, formed, stitched, and patterned. A hint of a hint of sparkle tucked here and there. Swish, sash, shush.
Is your expression captured in a flash? Images that catch your eye, that you share with pride and treasure forever?
Maybe you build out of this world inventions. 3, 2, 1, blast off! Beep, bop, boop, bop. Whoa!
Is there a place where you shine? A space you fill with all the things that inspire you? Somewhere you can sit quietly while tiny seeds of ideas swirl around your head until one plants itself and begins to grow? What can I do today?
Wrong way. Oh no. And grow, and grow. Then one day.
Ta-da! We have to read this together.
Okay.
Are you ready to do or say or create something? Do you know what it will be? There's no rush. Take your time.
But when you're ready, show the world all that you can be.
Yay! Oh my goodness. I love that so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that was so fun.
That was
Daria.
truly authentic. Authentic. Truly
was.
authentic.
No, you know, like listening to you talk and say you'd not met until the end of this book. I do not believe that. Like it's just so so much.
Well, I'll tell you this, Mr. Limata. When my mom saw me and Angela on the announcement together, she was like, "Y'all look like cousins. Like you know each other."
And Daria is just cool. She is just too cool for school. Like just easy to talk to, so warm, so wonderful. The very first email that I got from her was just like, I'm like, I love this woman. Like I just fangirled hard. It's like she's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's good to see your energy. And you know, just thinking of that too, and you know, celebrating 2 Black women here, and just thinking too, like, I mean, we have the Supreme Court nomination going on. How does that make you feel? And we'll come back to the book, but just how do you feel about that right now? And that picture that has been going around, you know, like how did you feel? What are your thoughts? Any thoughts on?
Yeah, go ahead.
With Angela.
I get live text. I get live text from my mother. You know, like if you want to see a woman sit in a difficult seat, handle it. You need to watch. You need to watch. You know, so she's an inspiration for us. You know,
yeah, she really is. I mean, just what she's being put through right now is just, it's a travesty. It's a tragedy that she even has to put up with what she's putting up with. The foolery is just sad. But to have that kind of an icon for young Black girls to to see. I mean, I'm like, wow, I was born in the wrong decade. I wish,
Yeah.
you know, because she just exhibits just, she rests on her experience. She doesn't have to put up airs or anything like that. She knows who she is. She knows what she's done. She knows what she can do. And so I really hope that, I mean, children in general, I hope, are watching her, but I really hope that young Black girls in particular are looking at her as someone to aspire to be, to see how they can move through the world and still come out on top. No matter what happens, she has just done so much for so many kids and so many Black women, even myself. I'm like, that's who I want to be when I grow up.
Right.
She's just wonderful. So I love seeing it. I want it to be over. I want her to be a Supreme Court justice. That better happen. But yeah, it's great to, it's good and bad to see, right? It's great to see her. I'm sad that she's going through what she's going through. It's unnecessary.
No, amazing. I was just thank you for sharing that. And I know that both of you are, you know, I feel like, I mean, we could talk about KBJ all the entire time, just like it's a whole conversation. But to move us along, just to think about, I know that both of you care so much. You both mentioned mentorship and doing all this, you know, that sort of work. So how is it for you, you know, like, how does that shine through in this book? And I know specifically for you, Daria, too, you mentioned that you want your brothers and sisters to speak life into their dreams. What does that mean for you? How does that tie into what this book is about? And we can start with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as an artist, I think one thing that I've learned is how powerful your imagination is and how your imagination can access experiences for you that you might not even be familiar with. And so that's really what I wanted children. I wanted to ground the visual narrative in a real place that felt very familiar, but I wanted what they were experiencing to be more imaginary. You know, you might not necessarily see a child on a food truck, you know, owning their food truck, but you do in here, you know. And so if they can imagine themselves in those spaces where they really want to be, then I think I've done my job as an illustrator of picture books.
Yeah, that's amazing. How about you, Angela?
I mean, I think Daria really covered it all. I was excited to see kids in different spaces, and so that was another thread of this book, where the inspiration came from, was the idea of, like, there were creative spaces, there's community spaces, there's personal space, and I wrote the first draft of the story was that, and I gave it to a friend of mine, and she's like, "You're doing too much. You got to pick one." And so I was like, okay, creative space. And but again, it was like, what I love that translated to Daria and the way that she visualized it was exactly spot on, of kids seeing themselves in spaces that they don't normally see themselves in. That's why the spread with the spoken word was so important to me, because a lot of kids aren't even, they don't have that accessibility to spoken word. They don't, you know, hopefully with Amanda Gorman that's changed, but you know, poetry and poetry slams, I wanted kids to see that they could do that. I loved, you know, seeing kids in the sewing shop, the fabric shop, making their own clothes. That was, you know, so I just really wanted to do something special that you don't typically see. Daria and I were talking about also that, you know, a lot of books that the story takes place in the city, it's usually New York City, right? And so it's really nice to see this book being something different in addition to that. So that's why I'm hoping that kids will just see, like, will think about, like, the spaces around them and that they absolutely belong there.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And it's, you know, like you mentioned when you were talking before before the reading, you mentioned the clothes on the line, and I know that I can relate to that. Even growing up in Zambia, like, that's something that I saw my parents, I saw my, you know, like I did myself, or I saw my grandmother do it. And it's just so interesting to see how a touch like that, even as worlds that seem so far removed, is that cultural intertwining that happens. And so I know you talked about this a little bit, but did you think that this would be as powerful as you as this is, as it's coming out in the book? Or, you know, like, have you been surprised by that element of it?
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of times when you're creating, at least for me, I don't always know why I'm doing what I'm doing but I trust myself that that's the direction that I'm supposed to go. And I think what's so beautiful about Black culture is that there are, it's generational, and it's also, you know, something that we don't always recognize as being generational, you know, in the connection from the motherland to America, you know, that's, it's
Mhm.
just not, it's not
Mhm.
something that we think
Mhm.
about, but it's so embedded in our culture and who we are as people that it just shows up. It shows up and it's there. And so the connection, and it's wonderful, because I think that's the beauty of art, that everybody can look at one spread or an entire book, and they interpret it and it resonates with them in their own personal way. And that's the gift of art, you know?
I
Yeah.
love that.
No, I love it. It's such a powerful page. And Angela, you know, like, I mean, we've seen your other books, which I love dearly, as you know. Uh, I mean, this one brought us here last year. This is the one we were celebrating, Ruby's Reunion Day dinner, and I've seen people like Chance the Rapper have read it, and, you know, like, it's just
What?
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
girl.
And then we have this
Nice.
one, right? If you look up to the sky, I just love it so much, because it's another one too that again reminds me of my own times with my grandmother. And there were times when we were just the two of us in the village, and she would actually, before going to bed, we would sing. Like, she would first of all have you say a prayer, and then we would sing. And, you know, usually I'll just pass out and sing. But it's just those moments, and reading books, like, it's just like, just ties in that. But how is this one different, or how was this process different, working on other books and this story that you have now?
Oh, that's a great story, or a great question. I think with this book, you know, each book, actually, Daria and I were talking about this, like, each book, when kids ask you at author visits, like, what's just your favorite book? And you're like, I don't have a favorite. They're like children. They're all special. But I think with Show the World, it's twofold. I think one was that I just wanted a book to be a celebration. I didn't want there to be like, you know, usually there's like a struggle, right? You got a character, there's a struggle, they have 3 tries, and then they get the thing that they want. And I just wanted something that was just pure joy, that was just pure celebration. In Oakland, we have Black Joy Parade, Black Joy.
Yeah.
And I wanted something that, you know, I feel like this book kind of symbolizes that the Black Joy Parade of just, you know, being happy and just, you know, again, showing the world what you can do and whatever that looks like for you. And then twofold, I think this book was also, what it will mean to me always is that it was the book that, wow, am I gonna cry? I might cry. It's the book that made me stop apologizing for my Blackness. It was the book where I'm learning, I should say, I'm learning to stop apologizing for my Blackness. And so that, you know, and not feeling bad when I'm in white spaces to say, like, this is a book for Black children or brown children. Not feeling bad about, you know, that I'm putting Black and brown children, I'm centering them in, you know, wherever I am, whether that's in a classroom, whether that's in an event or a webinar. This is the book that's really pushing me to not apologize for feeling very comfortable in my skin, being very proud of being Black. So that's what this book will always mean to me. And I hope that's what it means to kids.
Right. No, I love that. You know, how was it for you? I know, Daria, you've also worked on, you know, many books, amazing books that you've created. What was different about this one?
You know, so it's kind of a nerdy answer to that question. So if we could talk about picture books a little bit, one of my beefs that I have about the whole conversation about picture books, whether or not what you write, especially when it's a poem or poetic in this respect, is that it's not a story. And the interesting thing about that comment to me is that the gift of picture books is that you're telling the story through pictures and words. Each one does its own thing. And so as a creator, I thought that it was the first manuscript that I had the opportunity to create the visual story for the book. Like, usually the text guides me so much so that I don't have a lot of creative margin to determine, what the problem is, or how it's going to be solved, or what the ending is going to be. And so that was, I got to tell the visual narrative in the pictures, and that was a challenge. And it was because there were so many different visual narratives that I wanted to tell. The art director was like, so let's just, Elise, she's like, choose one. Let's just choose one, kind of. And so,
yeah.
And so, so that was just a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to choose for myself, what that narrative was going to be. And it was a manuscript that I never had the opportunity to do that before this one. So thank you, Angela. I love it. I think words and pictures tell picture book stories. And that's what we have to realize. We have to understand that, each one does its own thing. So.
Right. No,
I love hearing that. I love that. No, I do, because I think a lot of times for writers too, it's hard because you feel like, well, this is my thing. I hear a lot of writers like talking about like, well, this is my thing. And it's like, no, it's not, it's a shared, it's a shared experience. And so that makes me really happy to know that you were able to have that journey with it, Daria, because that's what it's supposed to be. This is our book. It's not my book. It's our book. And so, I always tell writers, I'm like, take yourself out of it. It's not about you.
Right.
It's about the children ultimately.
Right. And it's just, I always give the analogy, my son, he's a great cook, and my daughter, she's a great baker. And if he does what he does and she does what she does, I have the best meal ever. But if they try to do each other's job, I'm going to order takeout. So that's kind of the analogy of author illustrations working together.
Yeah. So. Oh, it's so wonderful to hear that, because that question does come up, and then too, like, just think that you both had these journeys, these separate journeys that were yet together. It's just amazing to hear that. But also, like, I know you mentioned, Daria, you mentioned that you showed us some of your creations, your works as a little girl. Some of those books have they influenced your modern work in any way, or have any of them come to be the books that we know now?
Not yet. I don't think so. But thank you for the idea. I'll have to go back through the files. You know what? I will say that parents who save or have the opportunity to save things that their children do, I think is so important, because when I did see that book, it brought me home. Like, it brought me to, I took this very long journey and, off-roaded for a while. And so when I was able to see what I created as a child, I always say that, most of the time what we're supposed to be doing does show itself to us when we're children. And so having that, those artifacts basically to go back to and say, oh, this is who I am, and be able to grow from there. Yeah. There's truly a gift.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. No, how about you, Angela? Have you had any works from early on that have come through?
Not yet. But I agree with Daria. That's a good idea to go back through.
Yeah.
I always tell people too, when they're struggling about like what they want to do with their life, I always say, like, go back to who you were as a child. What were the things that you loved as a child? And I think that's where you're going to find what you should do with your life. I'll go back through. But I was also going to say too, Mr. Limata, given everything that's going on in Oakland, you know, with education under attack across the country. But specifically here in Oakland, you know, there's 13 schools that were closed recently. And so one of the things that I really want to do with this book is to be able to help, you know, because it's so devastating, because of course a lot of the schools are in predominantly brown and black neighborhoods. And I've heard the stories of educators and kids and the parents, and, you know, they're all scrambling to try to figure out how to continue their education that they deserve to have. So I wanted to ask you, you know, what can people do to help support educators? What can we do to help support this, especially for me, Oakland schools? What can we do?
Yeah, no, I think for now, you know, like, is to continue to highlight. One of the things is to continue to highlight the effects that things like closures have on the Black and brown communities. You know, you look at it, it's like, sometimes it's just the answer you get might be, oh, people are just expected to go to this other school, which is much further away, and somehow families are expected to drive there or get there. Like, when it's raining, how do they do it? There's so many things that
when gas is $6 a gallon,
right? And then you look at some of these neighborhoods that kids are expected to walk in longer, like, oh, you know. So just to continue highlighting those effects, and also continue highlighting how the disparities in the sponsorship and you know, like, funding that goes into these schools and how that is affected. And also just, why is it that, you know, one of the questions that has been asked is, why is it that smaller class sizes are good for private school and not good for public school? You know, why are we spending money on so many other things when we could be spending it on schools, you know? And then it's just so much that just breaks my heart when in the classroom every single time I see my own students, you know, lacking music, lacking art, lacking things that could, you know, like, can enrich them. Those things should, we've talked about this before too, where it's enrichments. They're not enrichments. They should be part of core curriculum. They should be things that are there to help every child, expose them to all the different things. Otherwise, you know, like, when will we have other Daria peoples? When we have other Angelas, you know, people that can do all these things? And it's just so, it just frustrates me so much, because even when you push for things like that, there's so much pushback from powers that be, and you wonder, it's like, wait, this is not for me, it's for our kids. What is, you know, why are you so opposed to this? Like, are you trying, you know, like, just looking at it again, the kids that will be affected most are the Black and brown kids. The ones that are missing out. They're the ones that won't be able to create a pod when there's a pandemic. They're the ones that won't be able to have extra tuition, somebody coming to do music, and so, you know, like, with them privately or whatever else. And so it's just looking at that and continuing to highlight, continuing to show up in many spaces. I think one of the things you mentioned in the book is, what will you do or say or make to express who you are? And I think that goes to show that you care for your community, to show that, you know, like, you care for your people. And so what these leaders are doing, what people are doing, the decisions that they're making are showing us clearly that they do not care for certain communities. And yeah, so there's marches, like today there was a march out in Fruitvale, and so continuing to show up for things like that, and continuing to hold people accountable, you know, like, for those of us that can vote, like, let's make sure we vote, let's turn up, let's show up, and keep calling out people for everything that they're doing. You know, this is just such a, thanks for the question. It's just such a powerful topic. So something that I just hold so dearly. And I just hope that, you know, we continue to see change, and continue to see, especially schools like ours here in Oakland, public schools, continue to be funded right. And that means, you know, not just what kids need, not just, you know, they say, oh, we've managed to bring in this for the kids, but also the staff that work in the schools. Like, right now, I had a huge problem. Yes, I agree. The superintendent does an amazing job. It's a big job. They should be getting paid what they're getting paid. But the teachers, the classroom aides, should be paid, you know, like, what they deserve.
A livable wage.
A livable wage. They should not be, you know, like, having to move far away. People living in Manteca coming to work in Auckland. You know, so you think about that, it's like, you can't have that. That's not sustainable. you know, and so we end up having all these, you know, like teachers leaving and so on. And for some of us that, you know, try to stick around, or some of the people that stick around for a while in those schools, like you're just thinking, it's like, how long can I keep doing this? How long can we go with this? You know, and how long will our students keep going? Every year they're having to get new teachers that, you know, are not as experienced. And so it's like they're being used as a training every time. And so, yeah, to answer your question, you know, like just keep showing up, keep holding people accountable, and yeah, and just keep highlighting this brilliance that is there within the Black community, within the brown community, you know, showing people that this is what can happen when we nurture correctly these communities. And so, yeah, no, just.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you. Well, and I'm going to say, well, speaking of showing up, I actually am a mentor for 5th grade writers at Chapter 510. And I have to get on to my mentoring session. But thank you so much for having us come on. And this is, for me, this is like the perfect launch for this book. I just enjoy being here. I enjoy your energy. I so appreciate everything that you're doing for young kids and what you're putting out into the world. And so it's really an honor to be a part of that.
No, thank you so much. Really, I really appreciate it. You know, this book is already a treasure. I am going to have it in a special place, a different copy for the class. But yeah, no, absolutely appreciate you both, and just what you bring, what you represent, and what you've done with this book. I'm so excited. I know it's coming out April 5th.
Yep.
And so please find it where you find books, and find these amazing people. You can find Daria Peoples at dariapeoples.com and just see everything else that she's up to. Amazing work. And also please find Angela Dalton at angeladarton.com and follow them, see what they're up to, and of course keep celebrating their work as we continue to celebrate you here. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate not just this book, but the works that you've done before, and all this work too that you're continuing to do with the mentoring and everything else.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Limata.
Thank you so much. I'll catch you on the other side. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in Storytime. I hope you enjoyed that conversation that we had with Angela Dalton, and of course, Daria Peoples joining us for this wonderful book that they've co-created, Show the World. Yes, a big encouragement, an ode to this wonderful city of Auckland, but I think it is also an ode to every child out there, every Black and brown child out there, to continue showing who you are and finding those spaces. And we hope that you continue to find those spaces that welcome you, and we continue to welcome each other and keep each other shining right through. Thank you so much for joining in today. And find this book where you find books, coming out April 5th. Thank you so much for joining in, and have a lovely day, you and your loved ones. And of course, we'll see you here on Storytime again tomorrow. Bye-bye.